is Monday, March 4th. And again, we are the Duluth Public Schools ISD 709. This is our regular monthly committee of the whole meeting. This is a meeting where school board members are here. There is no action. There will be no voting or things passed tonight by the board. We do that at our regular monthly Thursday night meeting. And sometimes we have to call a special meeting if we do have action items that require a vote. There are deadlines and there are things that at times come to us and we have to do those kinds of things. But this is our committee of the whole meeting. This is where we have presentations. I'll turn it to Clerk Zadowski to take roll.
Member Banks.
Here.
Member Eder. Here. Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Member Lofall.
Here.
Member Mikesell.
Here.
And I am here. And Member Williams.
Here.
Superintendent Magus.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Present. Executive Secretary Shannon Brown.
Here.
And Student Rep Mia Petronas.
Here.
Perfect.
Thank you. And again, this is a little, it's a little less formal than our regular school board meeting as well. And so we just welcome you. And we have an agenda item. We have 3 items on our agenda. I believe these are all presentations. And they are, our first presentation is the annual compliance of concurrence and non-concurrence overview of the district actions. And then we also have a presentation, Advancing Equity, the American Indian Education and Achievement Agenda. And we have Supporting Every Student, the Modern Classroom presentation. And we also have Improving Systems, the Safety and Security Overview. So it's actually 4 presentations. And I know at our agenda setting meeting, we kind of alluded to the fact that this could be a long meeting. So hopefully we'll move through, and those of us that are presenters, you know, we know that you're here now and you might not present for another 45 to an hour, but I'll stop talking and we can get started. And if we need a quick break or something, we can do that in between presentations as well. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Thank you, Chair Lofo, and good evening, board, and everyone else in the audience and who might be watching it tomorrow. So last week, Thursday, which was February the 29th, we presented and there was a vote of non-concurrence provided by the APAC. Today, we are here to not only review our efforts from last year related to the vote of non-concurrence and the actions that the district took, but we also are here to discuss deeper the recommendations that APAC are moving forward for this year's non-concurrence. Before I do that, I want to quickly have the opportunity, because I don't have that chance often, to introduce the TLE team who is here. So we have a lot of district leaders here who are coordinators and program leaders. And I want to quickly have the TLE team stand up as we go over here. I'll start off with Jennifer Garbo. If you want to introduce yourself really quickly, who you are and the role you play, and speak a little louder.
Okay, Jennifer Garbo, coordinator of American Indian Education.
Nate Smith, coordinate the Office of Education Equity.
Hi, I'm Jacob Lorenz. I'm the climate coordinator.
Jen Larva, Director of Secondary Education.
Brenda Sparks, Director of Elementary Education. Sally White, Student Achievement Coordinator.
Theo Luzelman, Curriculum Coordinator.
Shalom Monroe, Family and Community Engagement Specialist.
Jason Craig, Special Education Director.
Laura Thurston, Assistant Director of Special Education.
Lexi Neff, I'm the coordinator of Health, Safety, and Environmental Management.
Jen Jarrow, CCFE Coordinator.
Thank you. I wanted to have this opportunity to introduce my team, because these are the individuals throughout the evening. If you have questions related to some of the district efforts related to the concurrence, non-concurrence, or just ongoing efforts that the district has undertook or will be taken to improve outcomes for American Indian students, they are here to field questions. So wanted to take this opportunity to introduce them. So board, there are a number of documents that you have received similar to last week, Thursday. If you want to show the very first one. By March 1st, as required by statute, the APAC committee, again, the Parent Advisory Committee, the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee must provide a vote of concurrence or non-concurrence as detailed in this document. So you should have this document that is titled Annual Compliance Overview. And we're working on technology to have it show for you. So you should have received this document, and I shared it with the board at least a week ago so that you can have a chance to really review what it requires of us. This document just really maps out what the APAC committee is charged with and their role, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and they're going to share some of that information about their role and how we partner with them to work on the things that have been identified as improvement efforts for American Indian students. It also documents and details the resolution that is to be presented, in which the APAC committee did read last week, Thursday. And it also gives some guidance on programmatic efforts to improve outcomes. So that document is really thorough, and it really details how we are to work together with our parent advisor group and their unique role in the district and in state statute and the importance of that. So this morning, as you're aware, our tribal consultation occurred where we presented this information to the tribe. They are fully aware of the vote of non-concurrence and the district efforts. They provided a lot of feedback to us regarding the things they would like to see us focus on as a district. And they asked really good questions, really hard questions, because they too have a desire for improvements in outcomes for American Indian students. And our data clearly shows that we are not hitting the mark when it comes to our American Indian students. So, so you will hear more about that tonight, and the committee again will share some information related to that, and the team will share some of the things that we're doing programmatically to improve outcomes. So you have that document. You also have a copy of, you want to go to the other document? The letter that was provided by APAC that has the recommendations. And I won't go through that here. I want to make sure that you have access to it. Yes. I also will be sending you an update related to the legislative changes that occurred. And this is that document that you don't have in your possession yet, but I will send that to you while we're sitting here. It is the legislative update on the changes that were approved during the last session. So the Teacher Learning Equity team received that today because I want to make sure that that we collectively reviewed it again. And we want to make sure that all of our other leaders throughout the district really dive deep into the legislative changes to make sure that, again, that we are aligning our efforts with what is called out in statute. And so I'm going to send this to the board as well while we are here. And then also you received another document that details the ongoing efforts that we have undertaken regarding the 22-23 state of non-concurrence or vote of non-concurrence and the district efforts. It also has in there the mid-year status to those efforts. So that document is in there, and you can ask questions related to the things that we addressed or have been addressing from the 22-23. And you can also ask questions related to the new recommendations that the APAC has moved forward. And that document looks like this, the one that shows this information here. Right? So everyone should have access to that as well. So I'm going to quickly turn it over to our coordinator for the Office of American Indian Education, Jen Jarbo. Yes. Yeah, come on up. And you can also bring if you want to bring your APAC.
Is that what we're doing, a presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
And you can also bring up the advisory if you want.
I remember to turn on the button to go green. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jennifer Garbo, coordinator of American Indian Education for the school district. And I'll turn, and I have 4 of our APAC members with us today, so I'll have them introduce themselves, and then I have a presentation to share with you.
Hi, I'm Amber Greensky. I am the interim chairman for APAC.
Tim Pohl, I am the co-chair.
I'm Lydia Shinkle, I'm the co-chair with.
And I'm Phyllis Cole,
committee member.
Great. So I'm going to go through this presentation, and then at the end, there's going to be time for Q&A with myself and APAC. So, all right. Let's see. Okay. So I thought I would take this opportunity to do a presentation to introduce or reintroduce you to our departments and our mission statement. This is a bit more of an informal time, and I think it's important that while we're in this process of kind of resetting ourselves, reestablishing ourselves, and I'm new, that you have a chance to meet our wonderful staff. So our mission statement, and this is just right on the website, Duluth American Indian Education's program mission is to promote youth leadership, provide academic support, and encourage career development for American Indian students based on American Indian values, culture, and language. And this is a picture of our wonderful staff. So we have 6 homeschool liaisons, and this is Jessica Robarge, and her site is Lincoln Park Middle School. And I asked each of our homeschool liaisons, what do you like most about your job? And Jessica said, what I like best about my job is watching our youth grow and navigate into young adulthood and being a positive role model for them. Next. And here's Jamie Dela Cruz, and she has 2 sites. She's at Lowell and Myers-Wilkins, and she said, the best part of my job is teaching students and staff about American Indian culture, history, and language. And this is Susanna Miller, our elder. She's at Laura Mackinstow Elementary, and she said, the best thing I like about my job is helping the students with their academics. JP has a long statement. For those of you that know JP, I asked 3 times for like a sentence or 2, and he was the last to provide, and he said, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it. So JP always has a lot to say, and we really appreciate all of his efforts with our Denfeld students. So he likes working for our department, and he loves to get to know all of our wonderful, wonderful young people with all their energy and life and possibility. He gets the privilege of observing them and guiding them through this important time in their lives. And he is always deeply moved and overjoyed to be part of the process of presenting them with their graduation Odeman stashes, which is a strawberry stash that our department provides to each of our graduates, and watching them walk across the stage of Denfeld to receive their diplomas and graduating as seniors. And JP works really hard to make sure that this happens. And here's our newest member, Anthony Bugg. He is at Ordine Middle School and East High School, and he said the best part about his job is seeing his students smile and just how happy they are when they get to see him. And I can attest to this because my son, George, Anthony is George's homeschool liaison at Ordine, and he looks forward to seeing him the days that he's at Ordine. And he knows that, Anthony says, knowing that I'm making an impact on their lives for the better and providing a safe haven for students to feel comfortable. He loves to strongly encourage his students that you matter. Next. Oops, Kanikasa Corbin, she's at Piedmont. And she said the best thing about her job are the kids. They teach me something new every day, and they make the hard parts of this job worth showing up for. Also, the work that we do with students and their families, I genuinely enjoy working and advocating for students and their families. And our newest addition to our department, Melanie Black, she started a week ago last Monday. I felt a little unfair to ask her what she loves most about her job, but she said thus far, she loves her coworkers, and we have made her feel very welcome and included. Every day she's happy to be here, and she's happy about the work we do for our students. So these current aims are outlined in the concurrence, non-concurrence documents, and we continue to work toward them, sort of these 4 different buckets based on the best workplace. I always get that that document a little off, world's best workplace. Kindergarten readiness, we read well by grade 3, closing the achievement gap, and then working towards increasing our graduation rates and other items as identified. So I started January 2nd. I'm coming up, I guess it's been 2 months now, and I've been exploring some new opportunities. One thing that I've been partnering with Community Ed on, or our department has, is exploring credit recovery through service learning. We are in the process of conversations about piloting a new project, a school within a school at Denfeld, starting in the fall. I'm really interested in summer enrichment camps. I heard from our department that there's such a gap in the time over summer where we can connect with our students that sometimes it feels like starting over a little bit. So we're looking at some different summer enrichment camps, exploring some new partnerships within the community. You know, as a district, we have a great responsibility to our students, but we can't do this work alone. So I think it's really important for that family and community engagement through new partnerships and growing our department. That's something that I talked about this morning at tribal consultation. And, you know, we have a ratio of about 1 homeschool liaison to about 100 students. And so that's something that we need to really look at how that's impacting our graduation rates and other areas that we want to work on. And we really have had kind of a reboot of our American Indian Education Parent Advisory Committee. Here's a picture of 4. We have three of our 4 in the picture. We met our March 1st deadline in submitting our documents last Friday to the state. And this is just a list of the documents that we provided. There's a lot of requirements that our department has based on different sources of funding we receive. And right now, we're working with providing the information to MDE. Next. So at the end of my first week, I felt a little overwhelmed. And I felt the magnitude of the responsibility that I have. And I ended my first week late Friday afternoon spending some time at Denfeld with kids. And I remember walking out of the building and the sky was really blue and it was really big, and I looked up and I said, I have to stay grounded. I have to be with the kids as often as I can. That will keep me balanced and remind me why we do all of this hard work that we do. So here's a picture last week. APEC hosted our first event of the year, which was I Love to Read Month, and we did it at the Harrison Community Club, and it was bingo for books. And we had 60 people in attendance, and we just had a wonderful time. I mean, it was just a great joy, and I told the parents that this is our reward for doing all of our hard work. And so I just wanted to share some of these pictures so that you can better understand who is in the schools and working with our kids, and that we have a very engaged American Indian parent group, and that our department is really moving forward to connect across the district, I think, in some really positive ways. Next. And here's a picture I took. Also last week, we started our monthly Bagadawewen or Indigenous lacrosse sessions again at Congdon. We'll be doing monthly gatherings between now and the end of the school year, and then we'll start up again doing weekly sessions on UMD field. So that's a partnership that we have with UMD and their Center for American Indian and Minority Health. And it's just a lot of fun to spend time with the kids. They have a great time when we offer these different activities. It connects families, I think, to our district in ways that are really meaningful and that they feel comfortable. Oftentimes parents, when they get called to school, it may not be always for, it may be for some difficult reasons, but we offer through the department a lot of events that are culturally enriching, as well as connecting with families and making families really feel a part of our community here. So with that, we have a time now for conversation with our APAC group. We can chat about resolution of concurrence, non-concurrence, or anything that you would like to ask us.
I have a question.
Yep, I will. I'm not sure who was first.
I
I'll
just
start
have
here.
more of a process question. Could they join us at the table?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
thank you.
Can we get some more mics?
that will be a problem, but we have to share mics.
Okay.
Getting more mics is problematic.
Okay.
But if we can share though.
Yeah, we can share.
Okay.
Do you want to distribute those now or after? Maybe after.
I think it'll be a nice opportunity. Just
Looks like we
to,
have, yeah, because, welcome. So I guess we'll pull up first, let's pull up the letter with the recommendations, just so that they are up. But then I'll defer to you in terms of how you would like to have the parent advisory committee either walk through the recommendations, or if you want to just be an open conversation with the board about the recommendations. I guess I'll follow your lead and the committee chair's lead.
yeah, I think an open conversation at this point is probably really beneficial.
Thank you. Member Williams, your mic was on earlier.
Yes, just even before getting to the letter, Indianet has a special place in my heart. It was my introduction to this district, and most of the members know me from those days, so I appreciate all the work that you do. I was curious if you guys have student reps right now?
That is something that we are working on during the pandemic. That's something that really fell to the wayside. Our Indian Ed liaisons we have started to recognize that our middle schoolers need to be a part of.
Will you turn your mic on? Sorry.
Pull it towards you. That is not something we have currently during COVID. That's something that sort of fell to the wayside. And we've been putting in some efforts to include that this year. As a committee, we have decided to change the definition of secondary student to include our middle schoolers and not just our high schoolers. We feel that the middle schoolers have a lot of ideas and a really good vision for what they would like for their future and what's working for them and what's not. And so our liaisons in those buildings are currently working with students to find students who would be interested in that and help them understand the commitment that would carry. And so we are hoping that we will have student reps starting in the fall.
Superintendent Magus?
Sure. I just want to say how much I appreciate you all being here tonight and how much I appreciate you working together. We had the opportunity to spend much of this morning in tribal consultation, and I think it was doubly reiterated that really spending time to listen to our parents and learn from our parents and thinking about it as true engagement in working together on things and partnering on things, as opposed to just having involvement. I think it's really important. And so I just want to say that as superintendent and as a former teacher and somebody who this is very important to me, and I'm glad that you're here.
Member Banks?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I am new on the school board, but I'm not new to this work with regard to the BIPOC community and our specific needs and wants, if you will. So I'm just going to read what I wrote down as you were speaking, and hopefully you all can help me and the board with this. So I'm deeply concerned about the graduation rate for our Native heritage children. The small number of Native heritage kids in the district perplexes me with regard to the academic achievement in ISD 709. The graduation rate is, quite frankly, unacceptable. Tutors. Do we have one-on-one tutoring services or opportunities for our Native heritage children? That's one question I have. If not, why not? My belief as a board member is that our focus in this school district needs to be on those children who have the most need, and that's where our efforts need to be. I'm concerned about whether or not ISD 709 is providing enough socialization opportunities for our Native heritage kids. So I'd like to know what kind of response you can give us to that. What socialization efforts are available to our kids in every school building? Not just one or two, but every school building. We cannot expect our children of color, especially in this school district, in this instance, our Native heritage kids, to be successful academically if we don't have enough people in the buildings that look like them. They need to have people that look like them. We need a better representation in our school buildings. I'm very concerned about the overrepresentation of our children of color, our Native heritage kids in special ed. That concerns me, and we as a district need to address it, and we need to address it now, because we know that our children can be and are academically gifted, and the continuation of putting our kids in special ed has to stop. Kids in special ed need to be there if they have the need to be there. But we cannot just make placements that are out of line because of behavior issues. There are more issues that need to be addressed with regard to special ed. So this is where I'm at with my mindset, and I need your advice as to what we as a district need to be doing now. Thank you.
I can start and try to answer the first couple of questions, I think, and then I would invite the parents to join me and others as well. We do not have one-on-one academic tutoring. That was kind of alluded to this morning in tribal consultation. I think the lack of supports in terms of ratios. So just doing some simple math, we have about 600 American Indian students, and we have 6 homeschool liaisons that are providing academic and cultural supports. Now, we do have other supports in the schools that are for all kids, and our homeschool liaisons should be above and beyond providing additional supports, but that's in theory, and that doesn't always, I think, happen in actualization in the daily lives of the kids. So I think that we could certainly add, we could use, and as part of growing the department, adding homeschool liaisons and perhaps even academic tutors. Other American Indian education programs in the state do have academic tutors. specifically within their departments. We do not. I don't know the history of that, but that's something that I think we could look at. Was the socialization the second? So we need to have, I think, more of a planful calendar of activities. Historically, there have been a number of activities throughout the year that happen from the department creating opportunities, but that's something that we've talked about within the department as well as with the parents, that we need a bit of a more robust calendar of events. But I would say that with the number of staff we have, we're pretty maxed out with what, I mean, we're doing all we can do with the resources that we have now. You know, we can always be a little wiser and a little bit more planful, I think, with what we have. But in order to really create more opportunities, I do think we need to grow the department. And then there was a third about special education. I'm not sure that I'm able to really answer that. I don't know if there's anyone else that could speak to the
Yeah.
disproportionality of.
Yes, Jason Crane is here. We will have Jason speak to that in a moment, but I do want to circle back, and I'm prefacing this comment because I want to make sure that as we go through this, we're all part of the team. So just know I'm acknowledging, have acknowledged since day one, and even today, that the graduation rates aren't acceptable, that we are working hard as a district to improve things, and we have a long way to go. And we want to reset this relationship with our parent advisory and other committees as well. But in this case, if we're talking about our American Indian Parent Advisory, we want to reset that conversation. And then I also want to bring a little context to, and I'm bringing that because I want to, as we're having this free-flowing conversation, I want to make sure that we do insert some things that are happening. So I don't want that to come off as being defensive or not hearing. So just please understand that, specifically tutors. So it depends how you define tutors. So if we're saying after-school tutoring support, that's different than during the actual school day. We have many students are receiving interventions, either math interventions or reading interventions, and they are identified and selected by teams of teachers and staff in the school. Then they identify who needs reading and math, and those students are pulled for reading and math support or supported in the classroom with reading and math support. So even my team today, one of the pointed questions I asked them is, how do we know for sure that our American Indian students who need that support are receiving that support? And as a district, we still have a long way to go in how we get data, access data, and to really pointedly, identify how we're doing with our American Indian students as well as other student groups. So we're working with our database trying to ensure that, not making any excuses. I'm saying we have a long way to go. And those are the kind of questions and answers that I want to have too, is to see how many of our kids are receiving those interventions. Who are they? Are the students who need to getting the intervention supports that they need? But I want to make it clear that we are providing intervention support for students who are American Indian and Black and other students as well, but American Indian students are receiving those interventions. Ask me how many, that would be problematic. We have to do some data pulling to get that. Something that we should be able to do in this day and age, but we're not there yet. And again, to make no excuses. Jason Crane is here as the Director of Special Education. He can describe the work they've been doing to really address what you just described as the over-identification of students with special needs, because I too, and the data supports, and we've been dinged by even the state that we are overly identifying student groups, and so it's something that we've been working on. So Jason?
Mr. Magus, I probably should have sat over there, right? I'll give you your chair back in just a couple minutes. To answer Member Banks' specific question, how many students have qualified for services? 145 of the 600 students that you referenced have IEPs within Duluth Public Schools. You heard Laura and I in January give an update that yes, we have a large number of students still being referred and qualifying at an exceptionally high rate. As a district, we are talking about solutions for that. It's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 work within our district that we're working diligently on.
I will say that one other just tangent project that the Special Services Department has ramped up is keeping a close eye on the students being referred and making sure that no race category, for example, even African-American students are being referred at an exceptionally high rate. We don't have that. So we're analyzing that quarterly in Duluth schools, where previously, before last year, we were analyzing that twice a year, and we're doing a much more diligent job. So I'm pleased to report from your special education department that we're not seeing an over-referral process with any one race category. White students are still the highest referred students for an evaluation in Duluth Public Schools.
Chair Lofel?
So I'm just going to comment a little bit on what Assistant Superintendent Bonds shared, and that was kind of we're a team. And Member Banks, these questions were asked this morning. We know what the work is. And as a school board, we're here to listen, to learn, to rely on the experts, to do our own observations in school buildings and to talk more. One of the things I'll just lay out briefly, again, there's a couple of things. One, we talked a little bit about an upcoming workshop opportunity in April 25th. There is another one of our quarterly workshops. And I believe some of that time could certainly be shared with our APAC families and our representatives here, and more to learn about concurrence and non-concurrence and working with our parents and listening to Jennifer again and getting to know you and building relationships. So that's one thing, if that could be something. We're not going to answer all the questions today probably that we have, and I'm not going to, time any one of us, but this is a really huge part of our desire to move forward and see improvements in all of the areas that we see the need. And I don't want to cut anybody off or make it feel short, but we do have other plans and opportunities. The other really exciting thing that I think came out of my session this morning, and again, I'll share with you our next tribal consultation dates. We were there for 2.5 hours and had really rich and honest and hard questions. And one of the things is that as we have committees, the Parent Advisory Committee would really appreciate if there were 2 school board members that were on the advisory committee that came to their meetings, and then they would let us know when they didn't need us at that meeting, that we would have, they meet the second Tuesday of the month from usually like 5 to 7:30 or 5 to 7. And that's something we have talked about in the past, but it means that we usually have a board meeting on that second Tuesday. And I would be bringing forward an idea that we will change our school board meetings. In the past, we've somewhat asked Benisaqua if the parents could meet on another night, and we heard that was the best night for them. So in conversation and thinking about your own calendars and what we could do, I'm asking the board to move our meetings off that Tuesday so that 2 board members could be appointed to the APAC committee and meet on a regular basis. And then that would rotate every January when we reassign committees. That's a standing committee. So I'll leave it to some of the policy committee because I know that would change, some of that structure. But just some things that came out of the morning meeting that I think would move us towards us building a relationship, the school board building a relationship with our Native American leaders and our elders, and would be a benefit to all of us.
Student Rep Ritzko?
So I wanted to come back around to the middle schoolers. I understand where you're coming from with saying that middle schoolers have like a lot of ideas because that's the tail end of Gen Zers and the start of Gen Alpha. But I have some concerns for if it's truly the best course of action to appoint a middle schooler for such a somewhat mentally draining and very, very stressful task of being a student representative, because me and the other 2 student representatives were seniors, and me at least, it can get a little draining at times just knowing that there's so much weight on your shoulders. And I feel as though for a middle schooler, you're supposed to be finding out who you are, not trying to, be part of some like very large debate team. Am I wrong? So I just have concerns for appointing a middle schooler for a student representative, though I do see where you're coming from. I think that it would be more wise to like appoint a high schooler. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Member Derek Eater.
Hi, I just want to start out, thank you all for joining us at the table. I really appreciate your time that you're spending with us. I also want to compliment and acknowledge the tenacity and the continued strength that this committee does year after year to come forward and share with us the concerns about students and about where they're at in their achievement. I realize that students are much, much more than what their test scores are, and I realize that these students are whole, amazing individuals, and even though we may not look at graduation rates favorably or math and all that, I just want you to know that I still believe these kids are wonderful, incredible individuals who add a lot to our community and to our schools. And I want to acknowledge that we have a lot of responsibility and moving forward to make sure that we show up for these kids as much as they show up for us. So in thinking about kids and keeping them centered, would you mind sharing just a little bit from what you know about how are their average days? You know, we went back and did our strategic plan and we talked about what is a desired daily experience for our students. So when you talk with our Indigenous and Native students and you ask them about what is their daily experience like, do you have some things to share with us about what that's like, what those days look like, if they can find joy and light in their days, along with maybe some difficulty and some other things they may experience? So if you could just share that with us for a minute, I'd really appreciate it.
I can speak on what my daughter has shared with me. She is a ninth grader this year at Denfeld.
My son.
The pandemic was very hard on her, and reintroducing her back into public school has actually been like a slow process, reacquainting her with, you know what I mean, what all that entails. And she comes home exhausted. A lot of the topics, especially when we're focusing on Indigenous topics, are difficult for her. They kind of reignite a trauma response, you know what I mean? Things that she's even just heard, you know, me talking about, her grandparents talking about. These aren't just stories from the past. It's not that long ago. This is the reality of her life. These are her auntie's stories, you know what I mean? So sometimes it's a heavy burden to go to school and kind of be made responsible to carry that burden for everybody else, and to have people ask, well, what, you know what I mean? Tell us what to do. And it's like, I don't know, I'm 15 years old. There is joy. There is definitely joy in her community. She likes school. She does well in school. She likes her liaisons. Jamie was really good when we entered this district when she was in 3rd grade at Myers-Wilkins. And JP has made tremendous efforts to reach out to her and let her know that he is a safe person and a safe space to go to. And sometimes she feels very alone and isolated. Even something as simple as switching her lunch from, what is it, gold or whatever the other maroon lunch, that threw her for such a loop here in the middle of she had just gotten used to where she was at, her friend table, and then her lunch got switched and she's like, I don't know where to go. And I said, go, if you don't know who to eat lunch with, go to JP's office. You know what I mean? So there is definitely, you know what I mean, supports, but sometimes they're hard to identify. And yeah, I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Member Williams and then Member Sadowski.
I think
Oh, I was going to, no, that's fine. So my youngest son is in 8th grade at Ordine, and Anthony is his homeschool liaison, and Anthony he has to split his time between East and Ordine. And George sometimes doesn't like to get up and go to school. He's a night owl, always been. And he'll ask in the morning, what day is it again? Oh, yeah, it's Tuesday. Anthony's going to be there. And he's like off. He's ready. The days that Anthony's at East, he's a little less excited to go to school. So, he has a lot of joy in school. He plays hockey, he plays lacrosse, but he finds his sense of belonging and his safe space in Anthony's area, his room. He's with other kids that he feels like he doesn't have to probably explain himself to. He can just be. He doesn't get asked questions about who he is and identity. November, Indigenous Heritage Month, or whatever the month is called now, was really difficult on him, actually. He got a lot of kind of unwanted questions, and as adults, we can navigate that. We can choose to answer them or not, depending on maybe how we're feeling in the day, but kids don't really have that ability, so there is a lot of pressure. But definitely, the highlight of his day is when he gets to spend time with his homeschool liaison in a place where he feels supported and safe. So as wonderful as that is, I have to ask myself, why doesn't he feel that the entire school is safe for him? And that's one of the reasons why I accepted this position, because I am interested in moving all of our schools towards being safe, our entire school, for our American Indian students. It's a question worth pondering, I think, and it's up to us as the adults to figure some of that out for our kids.
I have a 8th grader at Lincoln Park, and similar to Jennifer, one of the best parts of her day is when she gets to spend with Mrs. Robarge. And as we know, the west side of Duluth, we have a higher American Indian students versus the schools on the east side, and that's just a fact. And so when you have one, JP at Denfeld and Ms. Robarge at Lincoln, you have one staff that is supposed to, case manage and spend time with a large number of students. And so she doesn't always get to have time with Ms. Robarge or in that safe space that Jennifer talked about, because she's not the only student, right? And the same thing at Denfeld, where not having enough staff to meet the needs of our students is a huge disservice to our students. They can't go into those spaces. Something that was talked about was our liaisons not even having identified spaces within the school. Students can't go, oh, I'm having a hard day, I need to take a break, I'm gonna go to Ms. Robarge's room, I'm gonna go to Jamie's room. Sometimes they don't have rooms. Their room changes week to week, or they have a small closet space where you can't even have maybe like a group of students in there to do a beading group at lunch or on a win. So our liaisons don't even have dedicated spaces within our buildings, and that is a huge issue, and it's something that's been going on for years, especially at Lowell and Myers-Wilkins. Jamie Dela Cruz has been bringing this up for years, that she's not been able to get a dedicated space, and is often pushed out for other programs. So I think the joy that my student gets is that time with her liaison and seeing events that are happening in our district that reflect who she is, and having teachers who look like her, and the fact that there's not a lot of teachers who look like her, and having social studies texts that speak to who she is in the past, were, instead of the present. Indigenous peoples exist today. They're not something of the past, and there are still texts and lessons that are speaking about her as if she does not exist anymore. So that's a whole other thing, but I think that that's a big thing of why would a student want to go to a class that doesn't see me as a person today?
And I'd like to add too, I'm Phyllis, one of the parents, also a former school district employee, Indian Education Department, and Special Services. Where's Jason? He's gone. But yes, we're now down to our seventh grader. That is our only one left that we have at home. We have 5 children ranged from age 35, 32, 26, 22, and then 13. 3 are college graduates, one with a master's degree, one with 2 degrees, the one has an AA degree. The one is still trying to figure himself out, so that's where he's at. But yes, we worked hard to get them to that point where they could be competitive for scholarships, competitive to graduate, be ready for a four-year college, and that took work, takes a lot of work. Our 7th grader, we actually toyed with the idea, because her academics were very high, actually considered putting her into Marshall. And we chose not to because she wanted to be with her friends, and we just kind of worried about the school, the climate, how she would be as a student. We worry about bullying, worry about her skin color. But she's been doing well at Lincoln Park Middle School. She is a 4.0 student, and on the other end, she has not met with Ms. Brobarge. I don't know if it's because the caseload is so high, and maybe because she is a 4.0 student, that maybe they feel she doesn't need that support from the Indian Ed staff. So, I mean, she's getting along fine. I mean, I don't want to say not she's getting along fine, but she's getting through. She's got her grades. She competed in the JV team for the Denfeld girls soccer team as a 7th grader, and then this past winter she skied Nordic for Denfeld, and she made varsity. So she was the only 7th grader in Section 7 that skied. So that's good. So yeah, we have that. So that's like our household, her, like how she lives, she's home. We know where she's at. We're very involved parents, within school academics, outside of school academics. So that's her. She gets her culture. Just yesterday, we went to our family feast down in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. So we do that on the outside. We bring her up that way so we do that. But that's, like I said, that's her, and that's how we're parenting her, and how her every day is. Every day we ask her how her day is, and it's ask for, we don't accept open, closed-ended, answers. We want to know more about their day and how everything's going with friends and whatnot, and try to guide her through her day. But I can tell you, on the other hand, my job, I work for Fond du Lac Reservation, social services. I worked with kids for a long time. I know some of the crises that our Native families go through. I don't want to say that they don't care about their kids' education, but they have so many other things going on. Maybe they're worrying about being homeless, or maybe they have a little one that's still in diapers. Where am I going to buy those? I don't even know how much diapers cost, but diapers, food. Just even to get your kids a little treat, order a pizza. Some of our families can't even do that. For example, today I helped a family who does not have transportation, and transported the youth home from the local detention facility to his residence, because otherwise his family I don't know how the kid would have gotten home. So we have that. And like I said, it's not that this family doesn't care about his education. So that's another thing too. I mentioned to the family, I'm the extra support person that when your child is ready to, we got to go to school, he's on ISP, intense supervised probation. So that's what some of our kids are dealing with in our school district. They're on probation. So they got to mind their P's and Q's there. And like I said, support person, offer to go with the family when they're ready to go back to school, to the reentry meeting. Housing, they're having housing issues because of where they live. They're way out in the woods and they want to move closer to town. So, like I said, transportation issue, housing. A lot of our families, that's their everyday lives. That's what they're going through. They're just trying to get by. So,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. I really appreciate it.
Member Williams, then Member Sadowski.
Okay, I'll try to be fast. Real quick, I am just really happy to see Anthony as one of your liaisons. I know that and JP too, but I know the department has been heavily female with liaisons, so it's really nice to have a male figure for our students to look up to, so I think that's great. My question, though, was if you, specifically you as the director and your clerical, are you still 48 weeks or are you 52 weeks?
I'm not sure. I think that's a question for Anthony. I am
said
48.
48.
48.
You're still 48. Okay.
Yep, I'm 48.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
And the clerical, our new clerical is 48 as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I was asking that just because I see your summer enrichment as a goal. and
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're looking,
it would be helpful.
yep, we're looking at maybe extending the liaisons contracts by a couple of weeks into summer and then starting earlier. So we would probably still stay away from July, but extending into June and then starting up a little earlier with some programming.
Thank you. Member Sadowski.
I just wanted to say thank you for being here and for sharing. I think I got a lot of my questions answered just by other questions, but I really wanted to thank you too about these really great, just thoughtful recommendations. I was curious about a couple of them. You kind of answered number 8, the dedicated space for the American Indian Education Program. You spoke to that. Is that what that goal is kind of about? Okay, thank you for sharing that. And then my second question that we really haven't had answered is number 2, the recommendation for identifying transportation supports or transportation alternative for American Indian students. What might that look like? I was curious about that.
This was talked about extensively this morning at tribal consultation. And I think, how did I have that written down here? I think the goal here is to connect transportation to attendance to then finally graduation. As far as what that might look like, I understand that there's some vans that have been purchased. I think just spitballing off the top of my head, kind of what we had talked about as a parent committee, you know what I mean? Late bus runs, early bus runs, specifically to even just splitting up a bus run for that central hillside area where we have like a big concentration of American Indian students. I think the goal is just to make kids know that we want them in school.
Yeah, thank you.
Has the DTA partnership, sorry, I'm trying to piggyback off that last question. Has that DTA partnership helped or have you seen a change?
I personally have not seen it change. I've spoken to my daughter about it a little bit. That rolled out at the same time as like a change in the DTA itself, so she understood the old system and what bus would get her home. And now when we had talked about like I was going to do something, I was like, well, what would you have done? You just had to jump on the bus, and she was like, I don't know. And I kind of just walked her through how to find that information and where to go. But I think those two changes happening so soon, at least for me, I haven't really had a chance to explore what that would look like for her and how she would navigate that change, just within the DTA. I do know that that is available, though.
And I know that that also doesn't meet the needs of every student, because that's for high school
High
only?
school, correct.
Okay, thank you.
At this point in time. And that's something that was discussed this morning extensively, so we'll share it here as well. And that was a great question, because even with the DTA specifically, as everyone might know or may need to be reminded, there is a pilot program that's happening with our DTA where our high school students and staff have the ability to ride the DTA at no cost. So they have that ability to do so up until the end of the school year. The challenge will be, because we rolled it out in January and we really don't have a good system yet of knowing who is taking advantage of the opportunity. It's going to be hard for us. Right now, we are simply, they're tracking counts, how many of our students and how many of our staff. We have that data, but in terms of who's taking advantage of it, that's something that we're going to have to figure out. How do we gauge that? Because transportation, not only for American Indian students, but for other students as well, has been a challenge. So that's why we entered into the partnership with the DTA, and I'll remind the community and board as well. We also reduced the radius for our own transportation accessibility for students, meaning students at the high school, they used to have to walk 2 miles in order to, before they had the opportunity to take the bus. So those students had to walk if they were under 2 miles. We moved that down to 1 mile. So now students, many more students are now taking advantage of our own transportation. And again, we still don't have a good way of gauging, well, has that helped or not helped specifically to certain student groups, but that's data that we're going to try to figure out. And another piece is that we have, this is for the entire board and now, we had some remaining ESSER dollars, or we still have some, where we have some one-time spends that we could make at this point in time, or investments we can make at this time. One of the things that I did was to modify the grant that was supposed to go for summer school programming. Unfortunately, we had a significant amount of money set aside for that, and unfortunately, we just have not been able to really provide a robust summer opportunity for students for a variety of reasons, not because the money didn't exist, it's just for a variety of reasons, staff and everything else. But because that money still was there, I was able to tweak the application to meet another need, again, to address transportation. So we have moved forward with the purchase of 10 vans. So if the community sees Duluth Public Schools vans rolling around, or if they see a van in front of a school, it's because we had resources we had to spend that was targeted for summer school, that now our schools now will have access to a van, where again, we believe that will be available to help with attendance. So schools, not every school will be able to do it, but some schools might be able to run and grab a student who might be late or miss a bus. Staff might be able to run and grab and pick that student up. The vans will be available for after-school programming, so if students need to stay for a program, if a club advisor need access to a van to get some students home because activity buses are not available, vans will be available in the summer. Matter of fact, I just got an email from an individual from the Y asking, do we have transportation? They have the capacity to meet some of our programming needs, but they don't have the transportation. So they're asking, do we have vans? Or what is our capacity with transportation? So I'm sharing all those different things because we are really trying to figure out how to meet the needs of students who don't have reliable transportation. And we believe that it's going to benefit American Indian students, as it has been shared often that they're the ones who also have some of the deepest challenges with reliable transportation. So just wanted to share some of those efforts.
The transportation piece, I know when I was in high school, which was a little while ago, but not too long, we did have the DTA accessible to us with those bus pass. So that is not a necessarily new program. I think it, for whatever reasons, fell away for a number of years. And I know that that was something that I utilized as a student. It's like, I missed the bus, and if I didn't have that ability to take the DTA, I would just not have gone to school that day. Parents are working, they can't leave work to come pick you up, and if you live too far away, you can't walk. And so I'm glad that that is back. I think that having it only be in effect for a few months, we have not been able to see a true impact of that. And I'm hoping that there becomes a way to possibly track who is using that. But I think that that's something that will be able to help our students as a lot of our families don't have vehicles or we have parents who work. I'm not sure who that's accessible, if it's only for the high schoolers at this point. But middle schoolers take the DTA as well. And so I think if there's a way to look at maybe in the future when it's out of the pilot phase, opening that up to our middle schoolers as well, because a lot of them do take the DTA independently on their own. And that might be something that would open it up for that middle schoolers' attendance as well.
Thank you for that suggestion, and that's part of the goal is to do some kind of analysis. Again, we're trying to figure out how do we get that data. And there's obviously a fiscal piece to this because we have our own internal transportation company. We're trying to see if we, again, the cost benefit analysis, trying to see, okay, if we move to DTA, does that reduce ridership on our own transportation department, which then reduces costs there? Then it's, you know, it's everything has a cost to it, and we're trying to figure out what's the best opportunities and the best variations of transportation to meet the various needs that are out there. So we're working on it. I'm sorry. I'll go here, and then I'm going to go to board member Superintendent Magus and board member Lawford Camp.
I just have a quick question as far as this whole DTA thing. How do the students use it? Do they just show their student ID?
Yes, that's all they need to do is show their ID
Kind of
right
like
now.
similar to like the college students, just like swipe it?
Just for right now, just showing.
They just show
if we believe that we can afford it and it's something that's beneficial, then that's something that we probably would engage in the following year, and then it will be barcoded, and then we'll be able to know who's taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
and track
that would
it
be a
better.
real.
But again, there's to be determined. I don't want to misrepresent that this is going to be something ongoing because there's a lot of things we have to weigh.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify, they're just having to show their card, they're not actually swiping anything. Thank you.
No problem. Superintendent Magus, then Member Lawford Camp.
Yes, in this sound, I don't want this to sound negative at all. When we talked today with the tribe, we talked about making sure that we're not over-promising and under-delivering, because I think that unfortunately, as a school district and in many places, that tends to be the nature of things, particularly when looking at serving students who are underserved. And so I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. It would be easy for us to say, yes, we're going to have one-on-one tutoring, we're going to give spaces to everybody, we're going to increase the number of people we have in the program and X, Y, and Z. But then if we don't do it, that's worse than even saying we're going to and pulling back on it. But I think it's important that we really truly engage in deep dialogue so we know if there are 10 priorities, which are the top priorities and which ones are going to make the biggest difference. And I think engaging with you as a parent group and learning that and knowing that will be important. And then also thinking about the work of the board, because we're going to be going into a time of budget reduction. How do we make sure that we prioritize things and keep things like our American Indian education as something that is vital, and we need to make sure that we're preserving that, but also exploring other funds. And when I think about the work we'll be doing over the next few days, we're going to Duluth Days in St. Paul and doing a lot of advocacy and a lot of lobbying. One thing that Chairman Dupuy talked about was making sure that we are partnering together on some of our legislative asks. And I know that that isn't specifically spelled out in our legislative platform, but I know that Representative Kozlowski and others would be willing to explore what options there are. Not necessarily always just for additional funding. Funding is important, and funding money makes things happen. And one of the 10 commitments of equity is I can't remember the exact wording, but follow the money, right? Show me the money. I was thinking of the movie quote or whatever. But we need to make sure that we're working together on policy. We need to make sure that we're working together on lobbying. And I think, I guess what I would say is I'm humbled that you're here and you're still willing to engage after many years of maybe not always being heard, and not always having that opportunity, and maybe even from myself and my administration, we haven't, partly because of that conflict that we've had on the meeting time, we haven't been able to prioritize as much as we want to fully engage with the parent advisory committee. But that, my intent and our intent is that's going to be different, and I'm looking forward to beginning anew and doing some really significant work with you all.
Member Laura Flickamp.
Thank you. Kind of waiting to the end now. I have like 6 points I want to make here. But I first want to just start by, again, thanking you. I love every year when you do come in front of us, and I think Member Derek Eater said it so well, just about how when you come and present the concurrence and non-concurrence, how challenging that is to come and hard that is to do, but how appreciative it is to all of us, and especially those of us who have sat here each year. And I've always just appreciated that in the past too, the many parents are represented when you're coming to this. So thank you. And I look at Phyllis and Tim, and you guys have been around for so long, and I know your daughters and know the many ways you've really supported our school district and working, and as well as supporting not only your kids, but many of the kids. And so just thank you. And Amber, you keep coming back, and we thank you. I can't believe your daughter's already Lydia, your daughter's already in 8th grade. I just cannot believe that. I think you started when she was, I don't know, kindergarten? Yeah, a long time. So thank you. I also just, when you were sharing about your children, just really appreciated the joys you shared, but also the things that were hard. And I had an opportunity when I was to spend a summer working out at Fond du Lac, and I remember just being tired every night, and because I really kind of threw myself into this internship I was doing, and it was because I was really learning more about myself. I learned a ton about the community, but it was just really learning a lot about myself. So I just really appreciated, as you said, that it brought me back to many of those times. But my one question for you is where you have kind of the list, you say recommend pilot program or pilot school with the school program within a school program to foster internal support. Can you share kind of some of the things that you talked about with that particular item that you think would be helpful? And again, just thank you for being here and having this conversation.
Yes, so it was probably a month or 6 weeks ago. Nate Smith and I were called to meet with our 2 Ojibwe-Moan teachers. They teach at Denfeld and East. They were really struggling with what to do with their classes. So they had quite a large number of American Indian students that were not doing well in their classes, but they were showing up. And they were really conflicted. They had offered different supports and things, and they wanted Nate and I's advice just to come together and to have a discussion. I believe there may have been some counselors there as well. And through the course of the conversation, they said that class was probably the only class that the students were coming to. So it was sort of the last thread. And if they would have moved them to a different class, we may have lost those kids altogether. So we said, we would prefer that they stay in your class, they show up, they feel accepted, they feel comfortable. Some of their relatives were in the class with them as well, cousins and different things. And we would rather have them not get a passing grade as opposed to losing them altogether. So that discussion led to a larger discussion, and it was based on our two language teachers, and they talked about what might it look like if we started a pilot program at Denfeld with our Indigenous students, that they would go through a cohort together. So they would start their day, and they would share a meal, have breakfast together. They would smudge, and they would be in a safe space where they felt comfortable to learn, and that's how they would start their day. And then the second half of the day, they could go out into the greater school community or even out into the community for different opportunities. So this has been an ongoing discussion every other week that has been building in momentum. And right now, we're looking at, we met last Friday, and we're looking at space and staffing. So kind of getting down into the nuts and bolts. What will this look like? What do we need? We have Principal Tuskin on board. In fact, I think I'll try to quote him, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. What do we have to lose at this point? We need to explore innovative ways to connect and keep our Indigenous students engaged and to help them graduate high school. So that's where we're at with that. And it is, I think, an opportunity for us, and we will have a plan. The plan is to start small right now for this first year, and to include, as we move through year 2, year 3, year 4, to include all the way actually to elementary school, to create tracks for elementary school, to middle school, to high school. We know we can't, I mean, when you get a lot of really passionate people with a lot of great ideas, things can get really big really fast. And we said, no, let's just scale it back and focus on a group of about 15 students, grades 9, 10, and 11 at Denfeld, to start this pilot program in the fall. And we believe it's going to happen, and we believe that we'll have great success, actually. I mean, it could really, it could be an important piece in us moving forward. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to share. I don't know if, Nate, you want to share anything? Okay. Assistant Superintendent Bonds joined our meeting last Friday, asked some really great questions. We were able to provide information and where we're at and where we're moving, making sure that we have key administration involved in every step of the way. We think as a working group, we have done our due diligence, and it's time to pass it on, to the next level. But that's where we're at.
Great. That gives me more of what you were thinking. Kind of a follow-up with this and what you've said. Do any of you want to speak towards the immersion program at Lowell, just kind of in general? Yeah.
I had 3 kids go through it. They ended out, the pandemic was how they wrapped that up, so it was a little, it's hard to do that stuff during the pandemic, but I feel that the continuation of Misawikong is imperative to our American Indian students staying engaged, our families being engaged. You look at those family engagement nights, and you have almost every student and their parents there. And like Ms. Pohl had said, that the level of involvement, and I think we all know that when you have parents and adults involved in the child's education, the more they're gonna go, the more that the parents show up to conferences and school events and sporting games. And that is one of the really big indicator of success academically, is what are the parents and what do the adults in their lives support look like. And Miss Abekong has created a school within a school, a community within a community of parents and family members that show up for those kids, because they're in an environment that they feel supported, they feel seen. And it does not only benefit the children that are a part of that program, but the Lowell community as a whole. The events and activities that those students do, they invite the other students into. I know Ms. Larva was the principal when my kids went to school there, and it was when they do the ricing and they do the maple syrup making, all students in that building were invited to be a part of that. And that is something that is in some of that concurrence, is about visibility within the schools, and seeing not only staff that look like you, but curriculum, artwork, environment that makes you feel like you're a part of this and not just, I'm placed here, and some ownership to that. And having, you know, we get bullying and stuff is out of prejudice. It's out of ignorance. When you don't know, you don't know. And so when we have students and families that are learning about our students and their culture, you're creating a safer environment, not only for the students, but from the adults and the greater community as a whole. And so I think that the continued support from Asabekong is imperative to a lot of our students in the district. And I know transportation is very difficult for all students for the district, drivers, buses, you know, Voyager doesn't have a lot. So I know that that's a really difficult piece for everybody. But having the limited transportation for students across the district to participate in that, I don't know if they're still doing the hub busing. Okay, the hub busing, continuing that would be extremely beneficial. I know that Lowell and Myers-Wilkins have that exchange for the transportation, and so that helps with that. But when you have students who live in other parts of the city, having those hub buses is a really great way to help include students and families that are not just within the Lowell and Myers-Wilkins district. So the continued support for that would be, I think it's necessary for our families.
Member Meixel.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you all being here. Appreciate the very holistic approach that we're taking to our students that we're speaking of, and I think it's so wonderful. I want to bring it back a little bit to things like reading proficiency, achievement gap, and recognizing that, you know, out of our 600 or so students, there are 145 who have IEPs, but that leaves a vast majority of students who are not getting necessarily special education interventions. How are we assessing our kids for needs of interventions? How many of our American Indian students are receiving those interventions? Are we measuring progress? That might be more of a question for staff or administration. Just wanting to make sure that we're, you know, doing what we can as a district to provide, you know, those important things.
Thank you. And I'll ask Director Larva or Director Sparks can just speak just in general with how students are selected for interventions.
Yeah, so
We give a screener three times a year. We do Fast Bridge, and actually the state just came out with approved screeners that schools can move forward with going into next year, and we're already using Fast, so we're like feeling very lucky about that. So we do that in the fall, we do that in the winter, and we do that in the spring. There are certain benchmarks at each grade that students are to attain if they're on grade level for either reading or math. And so we analyze that down to, the details of the skill sets, the subsets, if you will. And then kids that aren't meeting those benchmarks, then they're identified. And before, and I appreciate what you said about special education, prior to special education referral, then we intervene on behalf of those kids struggling that don't meet those benchmarks. So that happens in kindergarten in the fall. We start that process.
So will it be safe to say that the students who are receiving interventions, that there are students who are American Indian students who are receiving those interventions?
All kids go through that same process.
Thank you. Director Larva, can you just share a little bit about mentoring? Let's go to Check and Connect, just a little bit of overview of mentoring that's provided to our secondary students as a form of interventions for students and mentoring.
Yeah, so we have Check and Connect at our middle schools and our high schools, and we have indicators as well, just like she was talking about. So some of them are based on attendance and some of them are based on academics and behaviors. And we have a coordinator that runs the Check and Connect program, and they're always looking at data and having conversations around what students would benefit from the program. A Check and Connect mentor is then assigned to students, a caseload of students, and this year, Assistant Superintendent Bonds really asked us to look more closely at which students were being selected for Check and Connect, and one of our main things that we do look at is whether the student is a Native American student or a Black student in our district, and if they need those additional supports, they would be prioritized for that support. And so it's really interesting when you have conversations with our sites. They really know their kids, and they know like who's on the Check and Connect, who's getting that support and who needs that support. And the Check and Connect program is really great in that it helps keep kids on track towards graduation at those levels. Also this year, I know she was talking about FastBridge, just to let you know that we are doing a little bit of piloting with FastBridge for some of our students in the high school as well. As you know, we have MCAs that come out, and at the high school, that's really all that they have for looking at data, and we're trying to get a few more data points for just certain kids. It's not everybody that's taking it, but some of our school within a school kids and some of our special education students. With the READ Act, we know we have to do things a little bit differently down the line, so we were piloting to see if that would meet our needs. So.
Thank you, and I'll call you, come to you next. I also wanted to share with the board and the community that to expand our Check and Connect opportunities this year, as a requirement, our integration specialists, who Coordinator Smith oversees, as well as our American Indian Education liaisons, have all received training around Check and Connect mentoring and support as a way of potentially identifying and supporting more students on what has been identified as a program that really moves the needle for graduation rates in supporting kids. The Check and Connect is, and is an identified support that does that. So that's been an effort that we have been engaged in as well, trying to, again, increase capacity around Check and Connect. So I want the community to be aware of that in the community. So I'm sorry, Amber, Green Sky.
Thank you for that information. I was just wondering if there is a mechanism in place where that data could be shared with our APAC committee. How many students, how many American Indian students specifically are receiving those targeted interventions in each building, so we can kind of support and figure out where we need to place our supports.
Chair
I'll just
Lofo?
compliment Director Larva on the Edge of Climber thing. We saw an example of it today, just a brief, and it was hard for us to look at. And it's a new systems for our district, and I think it's only weeks old, maybe a little longer than that, probably longer. Okay, and I think Director Lake is really the controller and the inputter of data, and we've had lots of reports from Director Lake over the years, and so according to our communication specialist, Adele Wellens, that was with us today, this is really going to be able to give our advisory committees and board members and principals and directors some really deep dives into data. So that was an exciting report. So there were two things that came out of the tribal consultation this morning. It was the vans, because you know how much I've loved knowing about vans, and this ability to gather data and share it so that we are able to see the impact on American Indian students and their progress so that better services can follow.
Any additional information or?
Just a comment.
Superintendent Agus?
Again, in closing, I too want to again say how much I appreciate you coming. Also, sorry for backing into the table and providing a little comic relief, but don't know, usually I know where I'm going. But what I was going to say is, given the importance and magnitude of this conversation, also the amount of time we want to spend to delve into it, maybe I'd like to suggest that maybe next year we consider a special meeting just for concurrence, non-concurrence, so that we could go more deeply and make sure that there's ample opportunity for any questions and any opportunity there. And also, if we have our data tool, there might be additional data points and such that we want to take a look at. But I want you to rest assured that this is one of our highest priorities. And I look forward to the day that we have concurrence and non-concurrence with in it, that it's based not on just wanting to give concurrence, but that it's based on different experience for our American Indian students and much better academic outcomes because of our fulfilling our promise. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to remind the board again that in your packet, you have information related to the district efforts and action steps that have been taken so far related to last year's concurrence and non-concurrence. So in that document, you will find a lot of information related to what all of the department leaders and program leaders that are here today and those who weren't able to make it today, the things that they have implemented. We're going to do the same thing with regards to taking it very seriously and having that sense of urgency around this work. What's going to happen within the next 60 days, because we have 60 days, or the board has 60 days to respond. We'll be not only meeting with our the APAC, but our teacher learning equity team will go a lot deeper into data. We'll consider the recommendations that have been mapped out to really, in earnest, have deep discussions around them so that we can have a full report back to the board in terms of the recommendations as the administration sees and believes should be moved forward. So that will all happen in short order, and so looking forward to more dialogue around the concurrence, non-concurrence, and what the district will do to improve outcomes and how the recommendations will be implemented and addressed in a meaningful, thoughtful way. So just wanted to let you all know that in the community, and I want to say thank you too for joining us. And it is, has been. Yep, yep. No, and actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to surface that real quickly. The question Member Banks asked was related to tutoring. So as a district, because of ESSER, we have had a lot of tutoring provided and still ongoing and still available. The College of St. Scholastica has partnered with us probably 2.5, 3 years ago to provide individualized tutoring for students, and it's for all students, and it's virtual in nature. And we acquired many students have taken advantage of the opportunity for the ongoing tutoring. And I'm always honest with things, with the virtual tutoring and how things played out, and they are tracked, especially through the College of St. Scholastica. Unfortunately, the data supports that the students who we really wanted to take advantage of the tutoring didn't access it at the levels that we had hoped. And we really try to, make sure we communicate and use our staff who have great connections with those students and families to say, hey, this is available. How can we help support you with that? And I don't know the end result on the data, but hopefully the data supports that there's slight improvement with accessing that tutoring. But again, for the community and those in the audience, that tutoring is still available. It's free of charge. It's through the College of St. Scholastica. If students are needing support, K-12, please take advantage of that opportunity. We've communicated it often in newsletters and on our social media sites. So just to want you to know that. So up next, if I can transition, unless there's a question, to our next presentation will be provided by Sally White. If she can come on up. And if she has others, she will introduce them. And this is under the category of supporting every student's modern classroom. And Sally knows me. I'm going to make sure the community and the board knows what is this modern classroom thing and what the heck are we talking about?
Good evening. As Anthony said, my name is Sally White. I am the K-12 Student Achievement Coordinator for the school district. And with me this evening is London Goody. She is a 5th grade teacher at Lowell, and she is a modern classroom participant. She'll speak a little bit more to her experience later on in my presentation. So, as Mr. Bond said, what is Modern Classroom? So, if we go to my next slide, Modern Classroom Project is a nonprofit organization that leads a movement of educators in implementing a self-paced, mastery-based instructional model that leverages technology to foster human connection, authentic learning, and social emotional growth. So, a lot of fancy words, but the 3 main things that I want people to take away about what Modern Classroom is blended, self-paced, and mastery-based. It's really all about what works for our students. It's blended, so we do utilize technology, but it doesn't have to be technology. There are modern classrooms that have very limited technology access. We have kindergarten and 1st grade classrooms who have utilized this model and they're not one-to-one device. We have classrooms that don't use any technology when they're using this model for instruction. Additionally, the self-paced piece is really important. It allows our students to work through material individually in small groups and in large group instruction as well, and at a pace that suits their ability. And it allows our teachers time to work one-on-one and in small groups with students as well. And then it's mastery-based. It's a standards-based approach to learning, remediation, and enrichment. So Duluth and the Modern Classroom. We began our partnership with Modern Classroom Projects in the summer of 2022. We had a large cohort of teachers take the training that summer. It was optional. We provided a stipend for teachers who did participate. And after the first year, the Modern Classroom Project was really invested in the work that we were doing and worked with us to lock in a grant with the Bush Foundation to cover half of the funding. So this school year, half of the funding for training another 100 teachers came from the Bush Foundation as well. They have offered additional funding for next year if we choose to move forward with training more teachers. And the Bush Foundation would be matching what we put forward again. This model has really allowed our teachers to meet the needs of students and has allowed students to have ownership and autonomy in their own education. We have had 196 Duluth educators from all of our sites trained in this program. As I said, it's a mentorship program, so they work really closely one-on-one with a distinguished educator, and we now have 2 distinguished educators in our district, one of them being London, which is awesome because that provides them an opportunity to become a mentor. I would love for this to be where we have the ability to have many distinguished educators that can be supporting within the district as well. So this part, I think, speaks volumes. So the next 2 slides are, the first slide is feedback from our educators who have participated in the program. I'm going to read you my favorite one. You can read the other ones. Take this course. I truly believe Modern Classroom Projects will make teaching sustainable. I'm a 30-year veteran teacher who wasn't sure I could stay in the field of teaching until retirement. MCP has given me hope that I can. There will be more upfront work, but once I have my lessons, videos, practice pages, and mastery checks completed, I will have more time and energy to help my students every day and know that they are truly engaged in learning. I feel like that just says so much. The level of excitement I've heard in teachers' voices after they've completed training and when I've met with them about the work that they did through Modern Classroom it's really exciting stuff to hear our educators talking about. And then on the next slide, this fall I had an opportunity to get into quite a few of our Modern Classroom spaces with representatives from the Modern Classroom Project. And while we were checking in with students about what they like about this style of learning. And so here are some quotes from our students. This was in a 5th grade and a 3rd grade and a 7th grade classroom. I like to rewatch the videos when I'm stuck. So there are videos that teachers create where they're reteaching content. So if a child gets stuck, they then have the autonomy, hey, I can go back and rewatch that video. And it gives them that ownership in their learning. I think that's so important. And then I like that I can work at my own speed. So some really fun feedback from students as well. Okay, so like I said, we have one of our 2 distinguished teachers here with us tonight. London so graciously agreed to come in, and I put in here what the Modern Classroom representative said about London's classroom. So they noted, Ms. Goody has an incredible classroom and has embraced every component of the Modern Classroom project model. We observed small group instruction along with authentic organic collaboration. Students were completely self-directed and independent in collecting materials and moving through the learning progressions. Ms. Goody's instructional videos were also exceptional with multiple means of engagement. And linked in there is her virtual classroom and her tracker. If we could click on that link too, that would be helpful. Do you want to speak a little bit to the tracker and kind of your experience?
Okay, so this is my the first social studies unit that I did. This is my first year doing Modern Classroom, and I do it with 3 different classes. I compartmentalize at Lowell with the 2 5th grade Spanish classes to get them their English time, and I do social studies with it. And so this is my first unit that I did. Each student gets a paper copy of this. Most of the activities are paper-based. It's into 3 sections: must do, should do, and aspire to do. And so the blues are all the things that students must do, and it's kind of like a game. They have to do the first thing before they can move on to the next. Should do's are things to help them dive deeper into their learning. Almost all students do the should do's. And then the aspire to do's are usually fun extension activities where they can really put what they learned further into building. In this one, it's building their own maps. And so they took all their skills they learned throughout the unit to create their own maps. And then sometimes it's games too. So this took us about 2 weeks to complete. Every student got it done around that 2-week period. It was really great because students can work at their own pace on it. A lot of them have like the little buddy icon on them, so that tells them that they can work with a partner, which has been really great to see that the kids can collaborate with it. One of the things I tell the kids is you really know that you know something if you can teach someone else to do it. And so that has helped kids be able to see who's already completed it if they need help to go ask those kids as well and see that collaboration. And then I'm able to pull kids, especially the kids who are struggling to grasp those concepts, and be able to work on them more frequently and where they're at. The mastery checks on there are all standards based, and they can't move past it without completing it. So that's been really helpful because I can see if our kids mastered the standards or not, and if not, how I can help them get there. And then they can retake that mastery check and that standard and continue on.
Anything else you want to add?
I think that's it.
Perfect, thank you. So I did have the privilege to be in London's room, and it was really exciting just to see kids' level of engagement in the social studies work. When I would check in with a student and say, like, what do you do if you don't understand? They knew exactly what to tell me, like, I can go back and watch my video, I can check in with Miss Goody. Like, the level of autonomy and like value the children were putting into their learning was just special. It was wonderful to see, and it's happening in all of our district. I mean, like I said, we have teachers trained at every site in our district, at our residentials, our AEO, ALC. We've had teachers participate in training. So it's really exciting to see, and even better is it's optional. None of this has been mandated. This is our teachers truly just excited to do some new learning around instruction. So student impact on achievement. So we have had a group of students at Lincoln Park Middle School who have been working in the modern classroom model in their language arts class. And so by the end of this year, I'm hoping to have some data to compare to their 5th grade scores, as well as the previous year's students as well in that 7th grade classroom, to kind of see what our impact has been. Additionally, you can see, and this is from Modern Classroom, the impact at sites where they have had full training. So there's 2 different schools listed there, and I mean, I think it speaks for itself, the impact that this instructional model has on student outcomes. So questions?
Member Sadowski?
Thank you for sharing your project. I'm clicking back on it. The MAPS unit tracker. I got a little sidetracked because I saw the battleship and I clicked on it. And it looks really fun, and what a great way to scaffold. And I love the idea of the must-dos and the should-dos. One question I have is, how long have we been doing this in our district?
Yep, so we officially started our partnership in the summer of 2022. We had a handful of teachers who had participated in the free program that they offer. So their whole program is free online. What we're paying for is the mentorship piece. The feedback I've received from teachers is the mentorship piece is really invaluable because there's someone there who is a classroom teacher, oftentimes at the same grade level or content area, and they're able to kind of coach them through when they're stuck. And not only that, but like even past your time in the program, you can go back and reach out to your mentor. So I myself am working through my distinguished educator work, and I've been reaching out to the person who was my mentor months ago. And so they really like that person to work alongside you and just help problem solve. So really officially since 2022, we've been in partnership, but we did have a handful of folks find it outside.
Thanks for sharing that. And I really appreciate how this kind of illustrates how technology can be integrated into our classrooms in an engaging way.
Yep.
I think obviously we're going to try to pass this referendum that's coming up for technology, but it's not just putting our kids in front of screens, because I would have never voted for that. It's really giving our kids the tools that they need to be 21st century learners. And can you speak to, you're a little bit younger, so I taught many years ago, and technology has just changed so much and so fast. So how has this been helpful for you in learning how to integrate technology in creative, engaging ways?
So I feel like the hardest thing is that our kids love technology, and to try to get them away from it a little bit. And that's where I feel like I really like the Modern Classroom, because I not to trick the kids a little bit, but I think it's like they come in and they're like, ooh, I get to go on the computer, without really even thinking, oh, I'm actually only on the computer to watch a 5-minute video, and then I'm doing other things. And so I feel like it's been a good mixture where they are learning online skills. We do some activities online. Most of the online portion is just like accessing this tracker, watching the videos on there, watching the direction videos for the like in-person activities that they do. And I feel like that has helped them like connect some outside technology use into academics.
That's great. It's teaching them how to be responsible digital citizens. Thank you.
And that's a great question, because that's exactly, maybe I missed the first couple of minutes because I had to go after been in here for a few hours. I had to step out for a minute, but maybe it was hit that with regards to technology integration, this is exactly what we're striving for, as one of the ways to really enhance technology usage in the classroom and in meaningful, engaging ways. This is one of those pathways for doing so, and I was pleased that over a couple of years ago, we started this path, and we have a long way to go still. And I'm optimistic that with the potential of additional professional development days, this will give us additional opportunities to really work with our staff, especially our teachers, to help them develop the skills to really implement and integrate technology in truly meaningful ways in the classroom. So this is exactly what we are striving for and moving towards. So I want to thank them for sharing this with us. Superintendent Magus, then Member Lawful-Kemp.
Sure, and I think several of the things that I was going to comment on were already touched upon with thinking about this. This is really what we look for when we think about what we are looking for in classroom instruction, especially when we're thinking about use of technology, when I think about the differentiation. But I also want to give kudos to you as an educator, because I think all of us have things that are the must-dos and the should-dos, but you have taken a dive feet first into what should we all aspire to do, and you've achieved it, and I think that you're a model to others as far as what we're hoping for. So thank you for going above and beyond, not just for your kids, but also so others can see and learn from you as well.
Member Lawful-Kemp.
Okay, great, thank you. When I saw Modern Classroom, for some reason I was thinking of that sitcom, Modern Family. I was kind of stuck on that, but you changed my view on that. But that movie, I obviously have watched it quite a bit. So anyways, a couple questions I had is how many hours does it take to become a distinguished modern classroom educator? Like, what time are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just to do the first coursework to participate in Modern Classroom, they say it's about 30 hours. What I found, and feel free to add on, it didn't take me 30 hours, but I have a strong background in educational technology, so there were parts that maybe didn't take me quite as long as it might have taken others. I think that's about the average time. Did 30 seem like a lot to you?
Yeah, I don't think I used the full 30. I do think that to get stuff set up, it does take a long time. I feel like it's a lot of front loading. Okay. But this year, doing the Modern Classroom, I've also felt like it's been much more sustainable as a teacher. Being a new teacher, it is something that I think education is really hard, and something that, like, my first couple years teaching, I don't know if I can stay till I retire teaching. And this has made this year feel a lot more doable as an educator as well.
So one piece, recognizing the amount of work that was required, because it is a lot of prep work, because you are making instructional videos, you are making these trackers and these mastery checks. We were really encouraging folks to participate as a team. And so a few sites in particular have really embraced that, and they've had a lot of teachers participate, and then they're lifting that load together through collaboration. And then a second piece was, and I'm hoping we can offer it again this spring, we last spring offered curriculum writing time to teachers who had participated in Modern Classroom training so that they could get some paid hours for curriculum writing, creating Modern Classroom lessons as well, with the caveat that they were then put into like a pool for other teachers to access as well. And then to become a distinguished educator, that's an additional amount of coursework. I would say probably, well, London didn't have to do any of the work because they came and saw her and she was so incredible, they fast-tracked her. But I know, right? So amazing. You didn't know you were gonna get hyped this much tonight, did you? But since I'm not in the classroom, I've gone through most of the coursework, and it's probably another 10 hours of time creating videos and example lessons as well.
Okay, and then kind of a follow-up, you mentioned mentors, and so who are the mentors? Are they, yeah, explain that.
Great question. So they are classroom teachers in the Modern Classroom Network. They're not necessarily Minnesota or Duluth. Okay. They have completed the Modern Classroom project. They've completed either the portfolio piece, or they've been observed by Modern Classroom representatives and kind of been fast-tracked, similar to how I said London was. So they have received that distinguished educator title, and then they receive some training and they become the mentors. So they're folks who have done the work too.
Cool, thank you so much. I can't wait to come to your classroom. And I love the must do, should do, aspire to do, and can be done with a partner. That is going to be like my to-do list for my personal life right now. Will you be my partner?
Williams?
Just curious if, Miss Goody, are you a mentor to people then, to other teachers?
I just finished my mentorship, so I can be assigned, or like I can take on mentees. Now, I'm not far enough in to know, like, I don't know if I could pick who my mentees are, but I did just pass the mentorship. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, thank you. Thank you again. Next up, our next presentation under Improving Systems, Safety and Security Overview. You do have a couple of attachments with you. I'll call up Taylor Dixon, who have you met before. She's going to provide that safety and security assessment review.
Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Dickinson. I work for IEA, the Institute for Environmental Assessment. We have been, perfect. We have been tasked with completing a review of your current safety protocols that you have in place regarding environmental health and safety, like occupational safety, slip, trips, falls, things like that, but also on a crisis management front. So we were tasked with the goal of evaluating current systems, developing a plan to improve the systems to unify the district. As of right now, your individual buildings are kind of functioning on an island. They're all doing different things. So looking at ways that we can bring them together, which will then make it easier for your guest teachers going between buildings, your parents dropping off at different buildings, visitors, things like that. We'll then create an updated plan, implement and train on the plan, and developing a maintenance plan is really a very important step, because when we have a secretarial change out or an administrative change, we want to create a plan that can still live. So next, I'd like to talk about what is an emergency, because I think everyone's minds go a certain direction, but emergencies can be very broad. A gas leak, a winter storm, fire, medical emergency, death of staff or student, verbal threat, weapons can all be considered emergencies, and our goal is that the plan would encompass all of the varying types. So our process for that, it'll be individual clicks. Our process for that is starting with physical assessments. So we completed physical assessments of each building unannounced to get best picture as to what things look like on a day-to-day basis. And we will talk about that. And then our second step was to review the district-wide plan. So on pen and paper, what does it say that you're doing? Are you doing those things? Are those things truly best practice? How can we make that better? Is the information readily available to the right parties? Really just seeing how that was functioning. And then our next step was to determine an action plan. So with all that information, can be overwhelming. What are we going to do with it, and how are we going to move forward? And then our last step is to implement it. So breaking it down seems a little less intimidating for the big topic that it can be. So next, I'd just like to give you an update as to where we are. So we completed the assessment and the review of the current plan. We've definitely chosen to leave it on a high level because of the importance of keeping your information private. It is very important that we do that. So on a high level, our assessment revealed need for focusing on the management of doors, propped doors, unlocked doors, things like that, just making sure our buildings are truly secured. And then labeling and signage that we have inside and outside of buildings, visitor management. So when a person like myself comes to a building, I go to a lot of different schools. How am I signing in? How am I being tracked? Is somebody keeping track when I leave the building? So if there were a fire, they would know that I was in the building. and making sure that those coming into your building truly belong in your building and that they're not someone with ill intent. We looked at training for staff members on procedures, processes, threat assessments. What do they know to do? And is that the correct procedure? Do they have the right information? And then making sure everyone's aware of the available resources. So we can have the best plan in the world, but if people don't have a copy of the plan and they don't know how to act with the plan, it doesn't do us very much good. So we looked at that. And then I did talk a little bit about the continuity between buildings, and that's critical. That's really important, and that's very tough here. I work with a lot of districts, and it's really, really tough here. I think every administrator is doing the best they can with the information they have, their experience, and the time they've put into it. And giving them resources and uniting them is going to be really important for actually handling any type of emergency. So we did hold some internal discussion to review our next steps, and some of it was fairly easy. So some of it we broke down into an action item list, and then of the action item list, those are items that I thought didn't need much discussion. They are, okay, we have all this signage at these buildings, we're missing it at these buildings, things like that. Things that were really didn't require much negotiation, they just needed to occur and get fixed, and somebody didn't know about that. So we've developed the action item list, and that's being worked on. Could you move one more, Shannon? Thank you. Thank you. And then another part of the plan updates is reviving committees. So OSHA and Minnesota State statute required that we have a safety committee, occupational safety. That committee is supposed to be devoted to preventing, discussing, preparing for staff emergencies. It is not related to crisis management. A lot of our teams might veer in that direction, but that committee is solely responsible for that, and that is what the letter of the law requires. But a big portion of safety management in schools ends up turning to crisis management, and it's something that needs focus and dedication and conversation about. So different buildings had different teams already established, so we are reviving and refreshing those teams. So each building has its own building safety team, and each building's been given direction as to who should be on the team to make sure that we're meeting our requirements of unions. We have to make sure we have different representation from different unions, as well as positions. That's really important to me that we're hearing from art teachers, shop teachers, special ed, paraprofessionals. It's really important that everybody has a different piece in it because they all bring different things to the table. So on our building safety team level, they'll have all the different people of various positions, depending on whether it's elementary or high school, representing the different unions as well. And then that building safety team is going to send representatives up to district level committees. One is the Emergency Operations Committee, and that committee's goal is to revive, implement, make better your crisis management procedures. And then the other committee is the Labor Management Committee, which is essentially the safety committee that OSHA requires that we have. So just the task of reviving the committees, reestablishing, making sure everybody understands what each committee is tasked to do. And then once we have the committees and we have the action items list, then we are working on updating the plan. So we have a really great plan to start from, and it's really just weeding through and picking out the parts that are good, the feedback that people have about what we can improve upon, and taking the feedback from the assessment and acting on some of those items. So it's been a work in progress. So just to give you a little update on the progress, we completed the assessments and review of the plan in December. In January, we held meetings with the principals among administration, and we also had a meeting with the Congdon community because they had some specific concerns relating to safety and security. In February, we followed up with the principals to clarify the intentions of the safety team because anytime we change a purpose that people had before, it's very confusing. So we just wanted to touch back on that to make sure our safety teams are really good representations of each building. In February, principals were working on improving their building safety teams, making sure we had the right people on each team. Our first EOC meeting is planned to be held in March. There's also a staff survey that is in the works to be sent out to staff members to gauge their feedback on safety and security. And if all goes as planned, we are planning to implement over the summer and roll out to the staff members when they come back in the fall. So they would see fresh changes. Parents would see some updates when they start to drop off in the fall, and staff members would see that as well when they return. Now, what questions do you have for me?
Member Meixel?
No, it's actually me, but
I'm sorry,
thank you
Member
so much.
Lafayette.
Excellent information, and I appreciate you doing the high level on it as well for all the reasons you mentioned. I was curious, the building safety teams in each building, is there kind of a number of people you want on those committees? And then how often should they be meeting?
So we ask that the building safety teams meet at minimum quarterly. It seems that some buildings are meeting as frequently as monthly. So that's really been up to them. And then as far as the number of people, it's hard to put a number on it because when we get to the high school level, we have teachers who are teaching in areas that are different hazards. My chemistry teacher is different than a 4th grade science teacher. So the number of people does differ, but we are looking for representation off the top of my head from food service, health service, art, shop, science, facilities, administration. I feel like I'm missing one. No, we don't have them on the list.
Okay, that gives me a good idea. And then my other question, the district-wide committees, then how often do you recommend that they meet?
So it's just traditional that a labor management committee meets quarterly. So we will go with that goal. And then as far as the EOC goes, I've got a pretty long list of topics that we need to cover just to get things rolling and back into place. So we'll be meeting a little bit more frequently, probably about once a month through the end of the school year, so we can have all the information we need to really start getting to the nuts and the bolts over the summer, so we can have a really clean rollout. I think nothing is better than a clean rollout. We don't want to have staff coming back and have a plan half done. I think that can be hard, so I'm looking to have everything done and ready for them in the fall. So it's going to require a lot of attention through the end of the year.
Excellent. And then my last question is, how many school districts do you work with around the state or region or however you want to define it?
IEA as a whole works with, I believe, 75% of the school districts in the state of Minnesota. And I personally work with, I think, 34 school districts.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your expertise.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Lexi Neff wasn't able to join us tonight, just as a reminder.
Oh, she's in the back.
There she is. I was gonna say, there she goes. Thank you. I was gonna say, glad you're here.
Yeah.
Chair Lofer.
Yeah. Lexi, you could come up too. You could. We should meet you. You're part of our family and team, but actually, the last question that Member Lafleur asked is somewhat where I was going. So I'm starting to realize that I met you at the Congdon parent meeting and heard about the journey that we have been on with our safety audit. And so then I started to realize when you're here tonight that we are in a partnership with you, and you are bringing us through this assessment and where you find the needs, and you will stay with us, and we will work with you, which is kind of what I just want to share with the school board, is that I think that's really proactive of our administration team. And I really, going way back to early October and into November, when our Congdon community and PTA brought us some concerns, and it kind of spiraled. I would think, in my own opinion, I'm just speaking for myself, it led our leadership to realize that what their concerns were one little small part, and what our district and our administration and our assistant superintendent and our superintendent decided to do, instead of just sweeping it a little bit off to the side, honestly engaged in what we need to do. And we uncovered, a lot of things that we need to accomplish, which then opens up more funding and more time of our teachers and our support staff in our buildings to be on these safety committees. But we're committed to that because just like we're committed to helping all students academically, safety is a huge part of academics. If they, again, we all wear our hats, and almost all of us are somewhat connected to education, whether it was, and as a teacher, it's like, I'm kind of glad I'm retired now because it kind of opens your eyes to, some of the things that we were not even aware of, but we were in a safety crisis area or not. So I want to just highlight that it's really proactive for our district to be doing this and working with Taylor, right? Taylor, yeah.
Yep.
And that we couldn't be more, this couldn't be a better partnership for us to deal with this year, even though it's a lot more work and yeah, some challenges.
Thank you for sharing that, Chair Lofa, because that's why I want to make sure Lexi, because I didn't see her back there again. I just want to make sure that everyone knew that Lexi is our health, safety, and environmental coordinator for the district, and we are in partnership with Taylor and IEA. So just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that, and then I want to say thank you for the partnership, because you hit it already. I mean, this demonstrates that we are really serious about the safety and security of our buildings, and make sure our staff and students and families feel like we are taking safety and security very seriously, and we are, and we have, like many things, there's lots of opportunities for improvement, and we are on that journey now to improve and working with our leaders to do so. Superintendent Magus?
You pretty much said everything I was going to say, but I again want to show our appreciation for the work that you two are doing. Having internal and external support, internal and external perspective is really important to us. And I think that I want to assure the board and the public that safety is one of our top priorities. It needs to be a top priority to make sure that all of our kids are safe before they can learn and while they're learning. And we are greatly appreciative to the advice you're giving, as well as the way we're working to navigate sometimes challenging situations and helping the culture grow and know that improvement around safety is not, it's meant as a journey of continuous improvement for all of us that we all can engage in, and we can all, there's no shame or blame, there's just improvement. So thank you for your hard work.
Member Meixel?
Again, a thank you for the investment of time and effort from both internal and externally, but also a question from like the fiscal responsible part. This is also an investment of cost, I would imagine. And so is this all happening within like existing budget streams, or is this something that we're going to be talking more about in the future of needing to increase costs, or?
Yeah, I would say that's a discussion that I would want to have in the future once we do an assessment. So yes, there were some additional costs to make this happen, as well as to create the new position that Lexi is currently in, to do some enhancements there because of the expertise that was needed. And so there wasn't an additional cost for this, but to get into additional dollars, and I want to make sure I have an opportunity to have those finances with me before I misrepresent those dollars.
And then the second question, we're talking about a lot of changes being able to be rolled out in the fall, just kind of everyone starting on the same page. Did you find that there was any more immediate changes that needed to happen, like as soon as you saw them? And was there anything that you're able to share with us now that you were able to take, corrective action right away?
So the entire action item list that I referenced is those items. It's, you should do this now, or it was things that didn't require a lot of discussion. Say, you always prop door G open. Stop propping door G open. It was things like that, and some larger items that it can, yeah. Maybe a playground that needed fencing, whether it was to keep our kids in or public out. That can be an example. The door schedules is another example. Over time, people may change things. There may have been a different program, the door schedule got adjusted, it maybe never got readjusted. Perfect thing to just change. Labeling of doors and windows, maybe a lot of your buildings had it and then just a couple didn't. They just got missed somehow. Different things like that. I think that's a pretty good summary of the do now list. But there definitely was a list, is a list.
Member Loeffler Kemp?
Yeah, great question. Do you often, Taylor, and your company, do you work with school districts for long periods of time then?
Yes, I have a lot of so the 32, 34 districts that I name, we have regular EHS contracts with. I serve them on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever their size is. Your size is different than others. And then we work with a lot of different organizations on a project basis. So they just need help with a specific project, we help them, and then we move along.
And so you're working very closely with Brian Brown, our facilities director. I mean, that's our staff contact, kind of our key one. Okay. The last thing I just was going to say, and this is for the rest of the board, Lexi and Taylor, we're going to be bringing the playground policy for the second reading that we had the first reading last week. Anyways, they both were the two of the people that really worked a lot on that. So, thank you again from the policy committee for your work on that.
Seeing no additional green lights, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Chair Lofo, unless there's other questions or final comments, that was our last presentation.
I don't see any lights on. So thank you. Thanks for such an incredible committee of the whole meeting today, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't officially adjourn, but we unofficially say we're done.